forgot who was speaking when I said, would you like some water? Because he's ramped up on caffeine and he's going to give us another great message. I mean, it's like 2 meetings for the price of one. And it's amazing. So I've been waiting for this all week. So help me welcome Jeff, please.
All right. How's everybody doing? Good. My name's Jeff Deck. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jeff.
And I'm pretty twisted, too. And I'll tell you why here in a second. Because I hear that there's a trunk open outside, and I'm thinking there's a body in it. And then I'm scoping the room out like I do, and I'm remembering what happened like 2 weeks ago after I did step 2. And there's a guy in here, and I won't look at him, I won't say who he is or anything. And for the first 2 weeks, I'm watching him as I'm speaking, and I'm like, this guy hates me. And this guy hates me. He's not smiling at all. And then after step 2, a young man came up to me and was telling me I had to come because my sponsor said that you're really delivering a good message up there, and that made me feel good. And he introduced me to his sponsor, and that was the guy I thought that hated me. He really was. Yeah, and I'm hearing our friends welcome from North Carolina. Excuse my language, you guys are screwed. I'm from New York. And this is how my mind works. And now I'm able to laugh about it. But this is stuff I used to keep inside. This is stuff that I used to think about all day. This guy doesn't like me. This guy doesn't like me. And then all kinds of other things would happen. And that's a lot about what step 4 is. And I've been telling everybody what a wonderful time I've been having out here with everybody who comes. And how much good this has done for me. Because if you guys remember, every single week I'm saying, don't do it this way, okay? It took me, I'm very, very fortunate I did not get drunk. Very, very fortunate. And having to do these steps every week, having to go back and really, really study, especially out of 12 and 12. The big book gives us those directions. This 12 and 12 really goes in depth on each and every step. It's just been amazing. And for some reason, each week, whatever step I'm about to do, it kind of reflects on what I'm going through that week. So it's pretty crazy. It's been a rough week for me. About 6 weeks ago, I got really, really sick. And on day 4 of being sick, my sponsor, Steve V, he yelled at me to go to the doctor because that's what needs to be done with me. So I went to the doctor, and a head cold turned into bronchitis, and they put me on all kinds of meds, and I felt great the past 5.5 weeks, and I started feeling it again last Wednesday. And guess what I did? I went immediately to the doctor, and they gave me prednisone steroids. I got 1 left tomorrow morning, but my mind said, if I take all these steroids, maybe I could go to the gym. Maybe I'll be able to hit that softball a little bit further. I mean, this is something I shared about it at a meeting the next day. That's what I'm thinking, So I'm feeling good, and then there's, you guys heard me talk about my first ex-wife, my second ex-wife, and I now have a third ex-wife. And she left me 6 months ago. She's 5 years sober. I pray for her. She's a good woman. She sponsors other women. But some information was brought to my attention, and it broke my heart. And I'll leave it at that because she's a great, great woman. But still, I had to go through it, and I didn't have to drink over it because I called my sponsor. I worked with other men about it. I shared in intimate detail with sponsee brothers and close friends about it, and it went on. Yeah, and I feel great about it. So I'm so, so happy to be here. And one of the first things I remember about a 4th or 5th step story was a man at the alumni house. There's this all-men's meeting on Sunday morning at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at the alumni house in Jacksonville. And I'm sitting there. I think I was like 4 or 5 months sober. It's one of the only things I actually remember. And this guy is telling a story. It's probably more along 5th step stuff, but it includes 4th step stuff. And he said that he had a friend, and he was sharing at a meeting. He was like, I keep going out and coming back, and I can't figure it out why. And his friend grabbed a new sponsor, and the sponsor said, well, why do you think it is? Are you getting honest? Are you getting thorough? Are you really, really writing what you're supposed to be writing? And the guy was like, well, I keep leaving something out that it's just bothered me. It just bothered me since I've been a teenager. And the sponsor said to him, well, listen, what we're going to do now is you're going to put everything on paper, and you're going to put that one thing last on paper. He was like, well, I've tried to do that before and can never get it on paper. And I can never put it in the columns like everything else. And the sponsor said, just do it. If you're sick with the pain, if you're sick being done with the pain, you'll do it for me. So the sponsee put it on paper, and they had their scheduled meetup, and they met together. So this is where it goes 5th step. And they get to the bottom of it, and the sponsor said, okay, man, if you don't want to get drunk again, tell me what you did. And the sponsee took a deep breath, and he said, okay, I slept with a horse. sponsor looked at the sponsee and said, "Me too." Now, I don't think that was true, maybe not in this country, but what I'm saying is, that was me. Not sleep on a horse. But I thought that I did everything that nobody else did. You know, I didn't want to tell anybody what happened to me. I didn't want to tell anybody about what my brother did to me in a sexual way when I was younger. How bad my dad beat me and my family and verbally and emotionally abused us growing up. All the people I stole from and the way I treated my mom and my first and second ex-wife, what went on inside that marriage where I became my dad and emotionally abusive in a certain way. I didn't want to tell anybody any of these things. And my first time in sobriety, if you guys remember, I got drunk. I got drunk because I made up a fake fourth step and shared it with my sponsor about hitting nuns and sleeping with 1,000 women and all this other stuff. And that actually weighed on me when I did it because I did respect that sponsor at the time. And I knew I was relying in meetings and all this other stuff. And after my first attempt at sobriety, I got drunk after 4.5 months and I came back. But let's move to the fourth step. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Yeah. So my plan is here tonight is, listen, there is so much stuff in our literature about step 4. I didn't know it. I really didn't know it. You guys heard my story, man. I would read a page a day since I switched sponsors 6 months ago. Other than that, I really wasn't getting into it. I would try and read. I'm a little ADD when I read too, so it's very, very tough. I always was. You know, so I would read a page and be like, what did they say? Read the page. What did they say? I can't take this no more. I'm walking away. You know, but now I'm forced to because I have this opportunity, which is fantastic. You know, the pressure's on me, so I'm able to do it. And going through this 12 and 12 this past week on step 4, oh my goodness, it's like what we hear people share. They wrote this about me. You know, and I've shared it before about the big book. I can't believe they put stuff in here about me, and this was in the 30s, right? I'm still waiting to find out the year that this big book was written. George, please tell me. 35, 37, 39, something like that. 39, my man. I'll never forget that. Thank you. So in 1939, they wrote this big book, and it's about me. You know, and then the 12 and 12. And I'm reading up on it, and this is where I learned that I don't have a drinking problem, right? This is where I learned. I always thought I had that drinking problem. I always thought that my problem was alcohol. My problem was drugs. If I could just stop drinking, if I could just stop drugging, I'm going to be okay. Not asking, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep doing this? Those are those foxhole prayers when I'm coming off a 6-day binge that I totally forget that I said, and then I'm just picking up with the insanity of the disease and going out again and drinking again and the same foxhole prayers. But, you know, I don't have a drinking problem. I have a thinking problem. My thinking problem has all these character defects, has all these defects of character, has all these emotions inside of me that tear me up inside that I never knew anything about, that caused my mind to race, that caused me to medicate myself so I didn't feel this way no more. So I could forget about this that happened to me growing up. So I forget about this that I did to somebody else. So I don't have these feelings anymore, you know? And with everything you heard about me thus far in steps 1, 2, and 3, let's face it, I never made a searching or fearless moral inventory. I never did. What I did do was made a searching and fearless moral inventory of you, everybody in my life. Yeah, it's like step 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. I took your inventory. You know, this is what I did. I made a searching and fearless moral inventory of every single person when I was growing up. And then when I felt like I was harmed, when I felt somebody did me wrong, it wasn't my fault. He did this to me, she did that to me, this coach did this, that cat bit me, the dog licked me wrong, I mean, the kid came out autistic, my first ex-wife was bisexual and she wanted the girl more, my second ex-wife became a JSO officer, how could I be married to a cop? You know my background? I mean, you know, this is what I did to everybody. You know, and then when I got sober, I did the same thing. At the Java Club, there's picnic tables. That's where I got sober 5.5 years ago. And I'm sitting out there, and my sponsor now, Stevie, he's a noon guy. He goes to those 12 o'clock noon meetings. I'm showing up at 11 o'clock, hanging out with the guys at the picnic table, not going into the noon meetings, having a problem with all those guys, including my sponsor now, in the meeting. These guys, they think they're tough guys. They got 30 years. Whatever. They don't have 30 years. They drank last week. You know, you can't tell me what to do. I can't wait for it to get dark so I can go to 7 o'clock meeting. The rehab buses come. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if I'm getting married, if I'm married. You know, there's a lot of young girls here, and then let's sit out there and not go in the meeting again. Talk about this girl, oh, look at what that guy's saying. But, geez, man, this is what I did. I took your inventory. You're dressed wrong. You shed wrong. Oh, I ain't going to listen to this. You're talking about God. I'm Catholic. Yeah, I don't want to hear this. What is this God stuff? This is what I did. This is all I did. And again, it's a wonder I didn't get drunk. It's what happened. I was sponsor jumping the first 6 months of sobriety. Sponsor after sponsor after sponsor. I went through 4 of them. And 3 of the 4 are still sober. 1 is back again. So that's great. So I think that what we're going to do here is go straight to the 12 and 12. I'm going to start reading it and in relation to how the 12 and 12 talks about my experience, because this is my experience on the steps, in how I got sober and how I've learned to work the steps, and how I faltered in working the steps as well, because it tells me how I falter and it tells me how I could do it correctly. And of course we're going to start off as I falter. And on page 45, it says, if, however, our natural disposition is inclined to self-righteousness or grandiosity, our reaction would be just the opposite. We will be offended at AA suggested inventory. What I just shared. We will be offended at their inventory. No doubt we shall point with pride. Now, pride is a key word for me in this. And we'll get into that. To the good lives we thought we led before the bottle cut us down. Yeah, my life was great. Remember? I was going to be a pro basketball player when I was 34 years old. I tore my left Achilles tendon in a night league playing against probably one of my dad's teams who was sending players out to knock me down because I hadn't spoken to him in years. I mean, Meanwhile, anybody ever see Basketball Diaries? Okay, with Leonardo DiCaprio when he goes out there and they think they took uppers, but they took downers. I'm out there playing basketball on acid, man. I mean, it's like in big games. So we shall claim that our serious character defects, if we think we have any at all, there's that ego, right? Have been caused chiefly by excessive drinking. See, it's the drinking. It's not my thinking. It's what I thought all along. This being so, we think it logically follows that sobriety, first, last, and all the time, is the only thing we need to work for. We believe that our one-time good characters will be revived the moment we quit alcohol. If we were pretty nice to people all along, except for when I drank, what need is there for a moral inventory now that I'm sober? This is what I thought. So I come in, I'm admitting step 1, I understand. I'm not really there that I can't drink yet. But I understand the insanity of it. I'm doing the same thing over and over. Every time I drink or drug, I'm getting in trouble. I'm pushing people away. And you guys know I'm Catholic, so I didn't want to hear about God. So everything with God is out there. So now if I don't want to do an inventory, that takes out steps 4, 5, 6, 7, and 10. With all the other steps, so I'm basically only just waiting for 1 and 9. And I told you about 9. That's all I wanted to do. I'm a professional, manipulative apologist. My whole life. I want to say I'm sorry again. It'll be different this time. So we also clutch at another wonderful excuse for avoiding an inventory. Our present anxieties and troubles, we cry, are caused by the behavior of other people. People really need a moral inventory, you. We firmly believe that if only they treat us better, we'd be all right. This isn't fair. What are you talking about? Why'd you do this to me? This is your fault. All right? Therefore, we think our indignation is justified and reasonable. Love the justification word. It's Rehab 101 on day 1. Our resentments are the right kind. We aren't the guilty ones. In italicized letters. They are! Exclamation point. And that's me. That's me. And it continues on page 47. Second paragraph. We thought conditions drove us to drink. And when we tried to correct these conditions and found out we couldn't to our entire satisfaction, our drinking went out of hand and we became alcoholics. It never occurred to us that we needed to change ourselves to meet conditions, whatever they were. It only occurred to me that you were the one who did it to me. I needed to change you. There was nothing wrong with me. My life went wrong because of you, because of this person. It was constant. To see how erratic emotions victimize us often took a long time. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. This is from 3 different pages of the 12 and 12 with different paragraphs in between, and they keep going back to the same thing. The same exact thing that happened to me. It was everybody else's fault. I'm blaming you. I have nothing to do with it. I'm perfect. Okay? What are you telling me that I got to do this for when I know all I got to do is stop drinking and my life will get better? I've tried to stop before. I've made it 30 days in 1998. Okay? But then this guy did this to me, so I started drinking again. But in those 30 days, it was a good 30 days. So if I just stop now, I'm going to be okay. People like me. I'm nice when I don't drink. You know? It's the insanity of it. You know, and it talks about, but why did I do this? And I did this, well, number one, because I'm human, alcoholic or not, and we all have these flaws, right? And I started Googling, and I started researching things on like Step 4 and AA, what other people had to say, and other kind of outlooks and opinions. Because guess what? I'm open to opinions now. Imagine that. Imagine that. You couldn't tell me anything a little over 5 years ago. It says that major human fan, these character defects come from something called what is written in the book as the 7 deadly sins. It's like the 12 and 12 is talking about the character defects, and the 12 and 12 doesn't really want to point out each and every character defect that we're putting in the columns. They're kind of in-depthly going behind the scenes and classifying them as a whole and really scaring us into the 7 deadly sins. You know, and I can't even not look at the book right now and recite all 7. And I'm Catholic. I probably should be able to do that. Okay? So on page 40, 48, I believe, they talk about the 7 deadly sins. Okay. To avoid falling into confusion over the names these defects should be called, let's take a universally recognized list of major human failings. The 7 deadly sins of pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. It is not by accident that pride leads the procession. Again with the word pride, which I pointed out earlier. And let me tell you, when I looked up the definition of pride for maybe the 1,000th time in my sobriety, and I always forget it, and I should probably get my next tattoo with the definition of pride somewhere where I can see. That's me. Because here's the definition of pride. A feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. I'm not giving any credit to God. I'm not giving any credit to my sponsor. I'm not giving any credit to my mother or anybody else for helping me with this. I did it. I want the credit. I want you to think and love me. You know? A feelings of one's superiority or importance. I'm important. You gotta love me. I'm the captain of the team. I was the most popular. I was the most athletic. I was the best player here. All the girls loved me. I could drink more than you. I could do drugs better than you. My first ex-wife was this. Did you see my second ex-wife? She's Puerto Rican. She's beautiful. This is in my head. I'm about to share. There's 4 people ahead of me when I come into Alcoholics Anonymous who are like 30 years sober, and they're sharing about step 1, and I'm in my head thinking about, man, what can I come up with to get these people to like me? Yeah, that's it right there. And I share, and I leave that place thinking that was the greatest share Alcoholics Anonymous has ever heard in my life. My life. I ain't going home and trying to hear anything else except what I shared, because I have the answer. I'm the best. That's what I'm thinking. That's how I was at the beginning of this. That's how I was living my whole life. You know? And here's the thing. My problem with pride is that I have high self-esteem. You know, it's just what was given to me. And the thing about that is, it could go one way or it could go the other way. Now I like to think it's going this way because of the work I've done and continue to do on an everyday basis. But that high self-esteem could get me in trouble. That's where it comes to ego. You know, if I stop working the program, that'll come out real quick, especially with the position I hold out in Jacksonville. The guys and girls from North Carolina, I run the largest Alcoholics Anonymous facility in Jacksonville, Florida. Maybe that's ego saying the word largest. You see, I'm probably going to have to think about that later. But it's the truth. And there's 2 halfway houses there. We get 1,000 people a week, and it's beautiful. So you know, if I start letting that come out over there in front of alcoholics who are by hundreds every week, I'm in trouble. They're going to retaliate against me. You know, I'm going to step on their feet. They're going to retaliate. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to retaliate. And it's going to be their fault if I'm not working the program. Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. Every single day. Grateful Mike back there, he says, you got to go at your recovery like you went at your drinking. And if I stop going at my recovery like I went at my drinking, all these things are going to fester up and come out again. And it's happened to me in the middle of sobriety, even after I properly worked some of these steps. I forgot how. I took my self-will back. I didn't want to hear anything. I didn't want to call anybody. I get sick again. And it's not until I get in enough pain that I actually go back to the basics. Basics that I'm supposed to be doing every single day. I don't graduate. I'm never going to graduate. There's 12 steps. There's not a step a day for 30 years. There's 12. You know, I'm supposed to work those 12 steps. So with pride, it's dangerous to walk if you're an alcoholic with pride and if you have self-esteem. It means that I overestimate my importance in the world, and I look upon others as inferior to me. That was like the sentence written down when I'm looking up the word pride. You know, and that just goes perfectly with how I was. And when pride develops, here's the problem when pride develops. Okay? Here comes the F word. So, fear. Okay, you guys thought I was going somewhere else. Pride develops, man. My pride stems from fear, and it will also cover up fear, which is so dangerous for me. So dangerous for me. And it talks about fear up in here too. So it talks about pride and fear on pages 48 to 49. They kind of separate them a little, but then they clash them together. So let's go to page 48 to 12 and 12. And it says, right after it tells us what the 7 deadly sins are, which is the last thing I read, the next sentence is, for pride, leading to self-justification, and always spurred by conscious or unconscious fears, is the basic breeder of most human difficulties. Wow, of most. The chief block to true progress. So pride is going to block, it's the chief one to me actually progressing. You know, pride lures us into making demands upon ourselves or upon others which cannot be met without perverting or misusing our God-given instincts. When the satisfaction of our instincts for sex, security, and society become the sole object of our lives, then pride steps in to justify our excesses. And when that happens, go all the way back to 43, I go power mad and devote myself to attempting to rule my fellows. When that happens. Yeah, you know, and if you guys remember how, if you don't, you know, I started sober softball in Jacksonville with my friend Randy Z and my best friend who passed away of this disease last November, Gene M. And we built it up. We were terrible at first. We lost every game in 3 innings by like 20 runs, but we stayed with it, and we had fun, and the whole premise was keep inviting newcomers. Let's just stay sober. We'll have practice during the week, and every week it'll be great. And what happened was about 2.5 years into that, I stepped back from the team, asked somebody to coach, and guess what? That coach wanted to do it differently than me. Crazy? I started this. You can't change any rules. Okay? So I wound up quitting the team, and a lot of people got mad at me, and I retaliated. I didn't even retaliate. I'm the one who instigated everything. I'm the one who started gossiping. I'm the one who's saying, you guys can't do this to me. I started this. These were the rules we voted on. We can't change these rules. You're doing it wrong. I'm quitting. I'm the best player on the team. So now you guys are going to lose. And this is pretty much what I said to these guys. Okay? Now, what actually happened was, all the stuff I said would happen actually did happen, so it kind of, which I'm not happy about, but back then I was like, you see, I told you, you know? So about 6 months later, 2 guys came to me and said, let's do it again, let's start sober softball again, we're going to keep it this way, and we're going to make new rules. I said, okay. So we made a whole bunch of new rules, and about a little over a year ago, it got so big, we started a second team, and then we started a third team, and then we started a fourth team, under one umbrella. Our team name originally was the Misfits, and we changed it into Action, and then we became Rule 62. And if you don't know what Rule 62 is, in a 12 and 12, it means don't take yourself so damn seriously. It's probably my favorite line in the history of lines. Okay? And you try managing a group of 70 to 80 alcoholics in sober softball, because it immediately went south again. I had 3 other coaches for 3 other teams, and I'm trying to tell each and one of those other coaches how to coach their teams. It has to be the same way I coach this team. This is a little over a year ago. If you guys remember, I kind of lost myself last November until about March. I stopped doing a lot of things, so I'm lucky I didn't get drunk. I was doing a lot of things, but I stopped doing very important things, like having God in my life, telling my sponsor everything, and I started not doing any kind of step work to see where I was, what my side was, step 4. You know, and obviously everybody got upset with me, and I wound up quitting the team. And when we get to step 9, you'll find out how I got back on that team, which is great. which was, oh God, that was so hard to do. You tried writing letters and emails and talking to about 50 different people. It was tough. I mean, like individually. Okay, so we got the softball, and we're going to go to page 49 here. We're almost done with this book here. So when AA suggests a feral moral inventory, right, it must seem to every newcomer that more is being asked of him than he can do. You know, I just get with Stephen Hunter. I told you he was my first sponsor, and I was ready to drink, and he has me in the truck going to Publix, and he was like, you went through 1, 2, and 3 with 4 other guys. I know you're not there yet with God, so I want to get you writing. I'm like, really? You want me to write? Yeah, you know, are you kidding me? That's a lot for me to do right now. So both his pride and his fear beat him back every time he tries to look at himself. Pride says, you need not pass this way, and fear says, you dare not look. But the testimony of AAs who have really tried a moral inventory is that pride and fear of this sort turn out to be the boogeyman, nothing else. And see, pride and fear turn out to be something that I realized it wasn't so bad. The horse story. Somebody else has done what I've done. Again, I didn't do anything with a horse. I just want to make that straight. Somebody's going to say, yeah, you heard Jeff Daggett was with a horse. Jeez, you know. And what's really cool towards the end of this chapter is it goes into jobs and it goes into emotional security. And, you know, I've had 66 jobs in my life from the time I was 17 to now I'm 41 now. And I've been fired by one, and that was in sobriety. I mean, that's my story, you know. And it tells me about what's going on in my life in the 4th step with jobs. It says that also of importance of most alcoholics are the questions they must ask about their behavior respecting financial and emotional security. Financial, about employment. In these areas, fear, greed, possessiveness, and pride, again, there's always pride there, have too often done their worst. Did fear and inferiority about my fitness for my job destroy my confidence and fill me with conflict? This is a great section. It just asks us question after question. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm a dumbass for not ever reading this at the beginning. I would have felt healthier so much quicker. You know, so like seriously, I'll say it every week. I have one suggestion. Don't wait like I did. Even if you don't want to do it, just do it. You want to get out of the pain, you want to feel better than you do, please do what's suggested of you by your sponsor and others. Please do what other people who have some time and experience have done and are sharing about doing. Reading these books, putting the pen to paper, trying to pray, even if we don't feel like, you know, we have a higher power yet. Group of drunks, use the group. Did I try to cover up those feelings of inadequacy by bluffing, cheating, lying, or evading responsibility? Yeah. Or by griping that others failed to recognize my true exceptional abilities? Oh yeah. I'm on the job for the 2nd day. Why am I not in charge here? Did you see how good I made the stock room over here? It hasn't been this good. Come on. Did I overvalue myself and play the big shot? We just went over that for about 20 minutes. Did I have such unprincipled ambition that I double-crossed and undercut my associates? You know how many people I got fired? And I am not happy about it. Right? Including management, because I wanted their jobs and took their jobs. That's the manipulator I am. Or was. Was I extravagant? Yeah. Did I recklessly borrow money, caring little whether it was repaid or not? Oh, God, I hated that amend. Was I a pinch penny, refusing to support my family properly? I told you guys, I lived with my mother on and off for about 15 years as a grown man. Never gave her a penny in my life for rent. Ever. Did I cut corners financially? What about the quick money deals, the stock market and the races? I really didn't go into the stock market, but I played Joker Poker a lot when I was doing blow in the middle of a freaking bar trying to get that quick fix and quick money. So I'll go with that there. That makes sense with me. You know, so yeah. On page 53, it goes into, you know, your emotional security part of this. And this is where I find out, if anybody ever been in rehab in here, especially Stepping Stones or Lakeview, I'm a graduate of there, they have this whole folder. And this whole section right in the beginning. It's called, I think it's called what? The Big Baby or something like that, the Big Baby part. And that, I mean, that's me.
King Baby.
King Baby, yes, that's it right there. King Baby. North Carolina. You know, I'm King Baby. You know, and I never realized this. Why, he did it to me. Why am I not getting this? I'm better than you. You know, and but it's from our twisted relations with family, friends, and society at large that many of us have suffered the most. We have been especially stupid and stubborn about them. That's great that they put the word stupid in here, isn't it? I mean, they mean business. I was stupid. The primary fact that we fail to recognize is our total inability to form a true partnership with another human being. 3 ex-wives, a bunch of alcoholics and drunks in softball, parents, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, aunts, uncles, not going to funerals, old coaches, schools, teams. It just goes on and on and on for me. There's one common denominator, and that's what step 4 was for me. Me. That 4th column that we'll get to here in a minute. If we lean too heavily on people, they will sooner or later fail us, for they are human too, and cannot possibly meet our incessant demands. In this way, our insecurity grows and festers. So now my insecurities are getting bigger and bigger. When we habitually try to manipulate others to our own willful desires, they revolt and resist us heavily. That whole retaliate part in the big book. You know, I step on their toes. That's what I was just saying. Then we develop hurt feelings. Oh my God, what happened? You know, a sense of persecution and desire to retaliate as we redouble our efforts at control. Been mentioning every week. I have control issues. My control, part of the reason why I drove I know my role in my ex-wife leaving me. I know my role. I'm not responsible for her role. I still try to take her inventory on it, and Steve shuts me down quick. Thank God for him. I'm a control freak when it comes to a lot of things. And it's these past 6 months, as I said last week, have been fantastic realizing this. Finally, after 5 years, you know, we have not once sought to be one in the family, to be a friend among friends, to be a worker among workers, to be a useful member of society. Always we tried to struggle to the top of the heap or to hide underneath them. This self-centered behavior blocked the partnership, relation with any one of those about us of true brotherhood. We had small comprehension. You know, so this is telling me all about why I acted this way. What's going on with inside of me? I don't have that drinking problem. I have that thinking problem. So what am I supposed to do? You know, what do I do next? And that's where the big book comes into play. You know, it says it right there. Anybody ever heard the Joe and Charlie tapes, like step 4? One of the first things they say is that when you turn to page 63. They talk about, well, you know, I did the 3rd step. Everybody's like, oh my God, what? The 4th step's next. What am I supposed to do now? I'm so scared. Guess what the first word is? Next. Isn't that pretty cool? You know? So I finished last week with reading that paragraph right before you get on your knees with your sponsor and you do the 3rd step prayer. It says, we were reborn, right? And then the next paragraph talks to us about, you get on your knees with your sponsor, you do this 3rd step prayer, which I never took seriously with those first 3 or 4 sponsors. I would stop there. You know, and part of the reason I know now is because I was scared to tell somebody what really was going on in my life. I didn't want to put this stuff on paper. Number one, I was lazy. Let's just say it. What? I can't type it? Are you kidding me? You know, I really got to use a pen and paper for this. Oh my God, I'm not doing that. You know, but it says at the bottom of 63, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action. Not just action. They could have put just action. This book is crazy, man. Let me tell you. It's crazy. They throw words in here that are just like, whoa. They really are meaning business. I'm stupid in this book, and I need to go after vigorously. Vigorous action. The first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. There I am again. 1939. Though our decision was vital and a crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once. I can't wait to do this step. If I'm done with 3, and this is just my experience on it, because I've had the experience of not doing it right away, and I have the experience of actually doing it right away, and that's what worked for me. Okay? So if I switch sponsors tomorrow, and I tell my sponsor that I'm going through some, here's a perfect example. When my ex-wife left me, I was heartbroken. I'm still heartbroken. Okay, it kills me. I've moved on. I'm dating. That's all I can do. I can't control her. She's engaged. She's pregnant with somebody else. I can't do nothing about it. She broke my heart. I've worked my side on it. Okay? But when I switched sponsors, I said I need to do an inventory on her. An inventory that I had never done on her. And I was with her for over 2.5 years. I never did an inventory on my girlfriend, fiance, and then wife. How is that possible? If you're in here right now and you're with somebody or you're married to somebody said, oh, we never had to do an inventory on each other, then please get with me after the meeting. You're my new sponsor. Right? I mean, geez, I want what you got. You know, so at once, followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us, our liquor, here it is again, was but a symptom. Telling me again that I thought all along my problem was drinking. There's much more going on there. So we had to get down to causes and conditions. Here comes the R word. I don't think there's a bad R word, but it's resentment. You know, and it says in here, resentment is the #1 offender. You know what resentment is defined? Bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. How many times did we just go over that in the 12 and 12? They did this to me. This is unfair. Yeah, I stole something. I shouldn't be fired. Well, I actually wasn't fired. I never got caught. But you get it. You get it, right? So, resentment is the #1 offender, right? It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. That's why we need to take vigorous action. That's why the word next is there. That's why the word at once is there. It destroys us quicker than anything else. Nowhere does it say that in the book as like a second opinion somewhere. Resentments kill me, and it goes on. From it stems all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. What's going on inside of me? When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and we straighten out physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. I'm going to show you my paper in a second real quick. But after 64, I wanted to go to 66 because it leads right into that. It is plain that, and this, again, they go through a couple, then it goes into, you know, the columns, it's telling you the columns, it's telling you the columns. And, you know, if you're new and your sponsor told you there's 4 columns, and you're like, nope, you're wrong. There's only 3. Nope, you're wrong. The 4th column is, you know, it's written in words on the next 2 pages. Because I think I told Stephen, I was like, no, there's only 3. What are you talking about? You know, and the guy's 25 years old. But it says on 66, it is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. The precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? How much time did I waste thinking about other people? And that's what Steve tells me. He wants me to gain that freedom. And that's what this is about. He wants me to have that freedom from bondage of self. He wants me to have that freedom so I don't let other people rent space in my mind like I did this past week with the ex-wife. And I did it for a period of maybe 4 hours here, 2 hours there, half an hour here, lost a night's sleep one night, maybe got 2 hours sleep. But, you know, here's the cool thing though. Because of Alcoholics Anonymous and because of a growth process, and you know what, because of coming here, and being able to do this, and being able to, for God to set up on this precise week, for me to be reading Step 4, when the information I found out this past week came into my life, I was able to get through it, unlike I used to do, and not lose 7 days sleep, and then get so hungry, angry, lonely, and tired that I'm going to go drink over it. You know, I don't have to live like that no more. I don't have to live that way anymore. And then it gives us these directions in this book. And what I brought with you, like I said, I picked up that 6-month chip. Good, we got 10 minutes. And December 14th, 2013, held that chip up, walked out of Java Club in front of 100 people, I'm cured. Never went back to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was in so much pain, I got in that van like I talked about, and he said, start writing. So I bought me 2 70-sheet college, actually I bought this one first, because, you know, I was probably only going to need 70 sheets. And so this started on January 21st, 2014. And this is how I was brought through my first actual 4th step. This is how he did it with me. This is what really, truly saved my life, the writing part. Because it started getting me out of here. Because remember, a couple of weeks earlier, I'm dressed up as Ghetto Super Dad sober in the middle of a high intersection of traffic telling people to visit my YouTube channel where I'm making these 20-second videos. I'm not going to meetings. I was in here. I hated everybody. Irritable, restless, discontent. I'm putting the pen to paper. And it's starting to like really get me out of my head. And because I'm putting pen to paper,
I'm actually listening in meetings now that I'm going to, and I'm actually going back to meetings, and I'm starting to hear things because I really wanted what my sponsor had. I really, really, really liked him. I liked the man for the first time in my life. Like, I really, I wanted to impress him. I started looking at him as my dad. I didn't want to do anything wrong for him. That worked for me. So I tried as hard as I could. And he said, column 1, put down your resentments. And there were 39 resentments. And then he said in column 2, you put down the cause and you put down a little bookmark. Well, I didn't have to put down a bookmark in column 2, but because it's on the next page. So then he said you go to column 3, you go over here and you have a bookmark, and that's what it affects. And then column 4, obviously, was my role, right there. So when we go to do it, my hands were like this, and believe me, this was really tough. Okay? So here's column 1, here's column 2, here's column 3 with my thumb, and I got this finger on column 4. So, for example, column 1 for resentments is everybody's names. So Joey was number 1. That's my second ex-wife's brother. Okay, and there was only one resentment against him, so it was listed as 1A. Okay, my dad was number 9. I put daddy. So column 2, the resentments were 9A, 9B, 9C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So there was 11 resentments at my dad at that time that I listed, the ones I could really think of. Okay, so then he said in column 3, so, you get the words, and they tell you what words to use. You get your self-esteem, your sex relations, your emotional security. He had me put physical security, he had me put ambitions, he had me put personal relation. And he didn't say write anything after that. But I wanted to impress Stephen. And I was a good student. You know when you had to write definitions in grade school? So I don't know, her shirt says dark. So you write dark, and then you look up the word, and you put a dash, and you underline dark, and you write the definition. So every single one I did was a definition. He didn't ask me to do that. And I'm calling Stephen off the hook. And I could tell that he's like, dude, you're not doing what I told you to do. Just put the words. I was like, Stephen, it's helping me to actually really think about it and put it down. And it was. So, and again, I wanted to be in control of that situation. But Stephen knew it, and he let me be in control of that situation. He said, just keep writing then. If you want to keep writing, keep writing. Because at this point, you guys know my story, most of it. I was holding every single thing in. I need to put stuff down. So Joey, what happened with Joey was, my second ex-wife's brother, he called me after my relapse, and he's yelling at me. He lives in Jersey. He's a UFC fighter and a cop up in Jersey. He's yelling at me over the phone. Joe the Show Camacho, by the way. He's got this talk. He's yelling at me over the phone. Don't let me come down there. You're putting my nephews in jeopardy and all this. And I went to my second ex-wife. How could you tell your brother this happened? And I'm resenting Joey for this. So I get to column 3, and I have 1A, self-esteem. He's making me think I'm not a good father or husband. Are you kidding me? Number 1, it's his nephews that I was driving around with drunk on my relapse. It's his sister. He's making me think I'm not a good father or husband. Guess what? I'm not. So I put that on paper, and I put the definition of what I think self-esteem is, and it's starting to make sense to me. It's starting to make sense. And then what is my role there? Frightened, inconsiderate, selfish. My sponsor had me put, what else? He had me put another word that's not even in the book. Well, I put everything sometimes, and he got mad at me for that. But self-seeking, all that stuff. So, he said, when you're done with that, what you're going to do is you're going to put an F any way you put frightened in the 4th column. And I was like, okay, why? He goes, I'll tell you at the end. He goes, okay, so everything that you had frightened by, you're going to now do another 4th step in writing before we even do this 5th step, and it's going to be called a fear list. And let me tell you, that those 39 resentments, there were 35 times that I put fears. So guess what I did? The same exact thing. Fears. I had 29, there was 39 fears too. There was a fear in number 1A. There was a fear in 3C. There was a fear in 4B, in 4C, 4E. So if there was a fear in 4B, my column 2 was what was that fear. My column 3 was what it affected in me. My column 4 was what was my role in that fear. So I do all that, and I tell him I'm done. He goes, no, you're not. Now you got to do your sex problems. I'm like, dude, I ain't got no problems there, trust me. Jesus, this guy. So he said, start writing down names of any girl you've ever been with. And I'm stuck again. I'm going to put down a bunch of fake names. I really like this guy. But I didn't. Okay, so I put a bunch of names down. I won't say, okay, so I put a lot of names down. And column 2 was what happened. Okay, so column 2 was what happened. And I don't want to see what happened, but there's a lot of words there for what happened. Oh man, I got to go buy a second 70-page notebook now. So now I go buy the second 70-page notebook, and there's more bookmarks. Column 3, what did it affect? Column 4, what was my role? Same thing, the selfish, the self-seeking. Oh, Steve, I'm done. I'm done. It's there, man. I didn't lie about anything. He goes, nope, you're not done. I need you to make a page worth of secrets, things you've never told anybody. These are my secrets, you ready? My brother, have I shared that with you guys the past 4 weeks? About what he's done to me? He touched me inappropriate, made me touch him when we were younger. Coach Kent, he was the basketball guy that I told you guys that I lied to my dad about when I went there and said that Coach Kent said he wasn't going to play me. That's not what Coach Kent said. I told you guys, I went in there and said, I need to get a job so I can't play no more. So I never told anybody that. I made it look like Coach Kent wasn't going to play me. I told you guys that. An email from my dad. When my dad died in 2002, I told you, I got an email on a Wednesday saying Jeff called me, and I never called him, and I found him dead on Friday. I never told anybody that. I told you guys that this past 3 weeks. And then he said, if there's any girls, because I was engaged. Well, actually, I was married at this time to my son's mom. Make sure you got to hide that stuff, he told me. And he said, you put initials. So I have SSJ. Remember that tall brunette from Stepping Stones I told you about from Texas? Stepping Stones Jill. So there you go. I told you guys about that. So I could keep going, and every single thing on here, as I'm looking at this, I've told you guys in the past 3 weeks. Secrets kill me. It's okay. Nobody else, everybody else has done what I've done. I never thought they did. I said, Steve, I'm done. No, you're not. You need to write down what's embarrassing to you, he said. I said, that's not in the book, Steve. I got you this. I wrote down. I was a bedwetter. I told you guys. That's what I became. I was peeing on people and waking up in the morning while she was still sleeping, running to get a thing of water, running back in the room, spilling it on her on purpose. Baby, wake up, I dropped my water. Meanwhile, she was sitting in my urine. That used to be embarrassing to me. Guess what? I've heard so many other people share things like that in this room. We are in this together. We are in this together. Steve, I'm done. No, you're not. You need to do a wrap-up. And I did my wrap-up. And this is what my wrap-up says, and I'll read this. When I look, and this is like, so now I started on January 21st, 2014. He gave me deadlines for each and every column a week. Okay, I was a stay-at-home dad taking online courses with no job at the time. He gave me a week, and I hit every single deadline, and I blew his phone up out of proportion, and I'm sure he put me on his sponsors list when he had to work his step. Okay. But this is what I wrote for my wrap-up. When I look back at my list, I keep seeing things like me being constantly worried over what people think about me. I would become different in order to either fit in or please the person or crowd I was with. My ego always needed boosting because I never quite felt I was good enough and wanted to be and be looked at as the best person possible. My dad did a number on me, and I have used that as a starting point for every excuse in which I began blaming everyone else about myself. Looking back at these lists, I can't imagine what I put so many people through. Maybe I should put that on my embarrassing list. Is this normal to be an alcoholic? Is this normal alcoholic behavior? Question mark. Yes! But I didn't know that. And that whole wrap-up is everything that I read in this book, and I didn't know it up until this past week. I mean, that there, putting that on paper without sharing it with my sponsor yet, making that fearless and thorough, moral inventory, oh my goodness. Do you see what I'm saying about the thorough part? That's why I brought that with you. I had to be thorough because my secrets kept me in. My secrets killed me. They killed me. And I just want to read one last thing. I know we only got like 3 minutes here, okay? On page 70. In the last 2 paragraphs, it says, we have been thorough about our personal inventory. There we go. Thorough. We have written down a lot. Yeah. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill towards all men, even our enemies. For we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. Page 67, the bottom of 66, the top of 67, saves me so much when I get a quick resentment before I'm able to talk it over with my sponsor. And I'll end with this. And I seriously say this or read this passage all the time and suggest it all the time. This was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Though we did not like their symptoms and the way they disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. I am sick. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, here we go with the prayer, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done, remembering that God has to be involved in my life at all times, bringing me back to 3, because it's all connected. And next week I'm going to talk about how my experience with literature about 5 and my experience with 5, they saved my life the first time and almost killed me a couple of other times because I didn't properly do it. So thanks for letting me share that.